Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now this week's video is all about another camera that I've bought. Because I've got my, as you can see here, Chamonix, which is a 4x5 field camera, and I'm using it as a an enlarger head, so I can print from 4x5 and 6x9 negatives. I really don't want to keep taking that camera on and off. So I was looking out for a reasonably cheap, another 4x5 camera. I'm not a massive 4x5 camera user. I just go out now and again when I you know, feel like it. The main camera that I do go out with the big negatives is my pinhole camera. That's what I enjoy the most. But occasionally I do go out with 4x5 cameras and I enjoy using them. But I didn't want to pay the earth for a camera. So like we do, I went onto eBay and just browsing what was on offer there, and I came across this camera. Now it's a camera that I have owned before, but this one, I don't know, I just had a gut feeling that it could be a good buy, going by the description, and it came from a seller on eBay, St Oswald's Hospice. So anything that proceeds they get from that goes to the charity, to the hospice. So I thought, well, it's a good cause as well. So I put a bid in, and eventually I won the camera. There was only 2 people bidding, and I'll tell you what I paid for it. I paid just over £300. Now, it might seem a lot of money to some people to pay that for an old vintage camera, but when you see the camera, you'll see why I was really chuffed when I actually got it delivered. The camera came with a lens and everything I need just to go out and take 4x5 images. The only thing I had to provide was the film holders that go in the back, which I already have, that I use on the Chamonix. So this video is all about this camera. I'm going to show you briefly how these type of cameras work, and I think they're a great way of getting into 4x5 photography, large format photography, without breaking the bank. So let's have a look at the camera that I bought, and then we'll have a look around it, and then what I'm going to do is go out with the camera, take a few shots, just see what results I can get from it. So we'll take a look at the camera now. Right, this is the camera that I bought, and all is revealed. It's a Graflex Crown Graphic 4.5 Special with a 135mm f/4.7 lens. It's a Singer Graflex division, it says. I didn't know that Singer made these, I'm not sure. Somebody might know better than me, but that's what it is. It's in the original box, and that was a really good start. So when I opened the box and looked inside, all wrapped up in its original plastic, took the camera out, and as you can see, I don't think it's ever been used. It's basically like new. So my gut feeling was right. An absolutely mint Graflex camera. So what I'll do now is I'll put it on the tripod and I'll give you a tour of it and show you some of this camera features. But you can see now that I did pay a premium for this camera, but to find them in this condition is very rare. So it's for me it was a really great buy. So let's put it on the tripod and have a careful look around it. Right, let's take a closer look at this Graflex Crown Graphic camera. To open the camera, there's a little like bulge. It's a button that's under the leatherette. On mine it's in the middle, on others it can be in different places, but basically you just press that once you've located it, and it drops the front bed, and then it reveals the front standard and lens. And you can see why I was so chuffed with this camera. The condition of it is absolutely mint. It doesn't look like it's ever been used, and you know, you really are hard pressed to find cameras of this sort to be in this type of condition. because they were quite heavily used primarily as press cameras. So I'm really happy about that. Now, to pull the front standard out, there's a lever there. You pull that to the middle and you pull it out, and it's the infinity stops at either side. That means that the camera's now focused at infinity, so you're all set to use this lens. Now this lens is a Zenner 135mm f4.7 lens, Schneider Zenner, and its shutter speeds run from a TB1 to 500th of a second, and the aperture is f4.7 to f32. Now this camera has been set up for this lens. In other words, we have a rangefinder at the top here, and it has a cam that fits underneath somewhere there, and when you adjust the knobs at either side to move the bellows in and out, that also works with the rangefinder for this particular lens. So when the two images come together, you're actually in focus. It won't work with another lens of a focal length. To do that, you'd have to put another cam in. But this camera's been set up for that. It's even got the mask that slips in at the top there for this 135mm lens. So to all intents and purposes, because it's set up like this, and it's a camera that I can hand hold and take pictures, I'm going to probably use this lens all the time. Now these cameras don't have the functionality like the Chamonix camera that I have, or say the Intrepid 4x5 cameras. They have a lot of movements on the backs, on the front standards. This just has some movements, but not as many. But they are there and they can be used. So the first movement is rise and fall. Now you can rise the front standard. That's used. You'd use that if you're photographing a building and you have to point up to get the whole of the building in. That way you're going to get converging verticals. But with these cameras that have got rise, you don't have to move. As long as the camera's level, you can alter the perspective of the image, and you can get the top of the image in without having to tilt the camera upwards. But when we drop it down, there's no fall. I can't get any fall on this camera, but there is a way to do it, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other movement the camera has when it's in this standard position is you can tilt the actual sorry, that button there. You can actually tilt the lens backwards, and that again has an effect on the image, and you can get some interesting results using that. But we can't push the lens backwards on the front standard, and that's really handy when you're doing landscape work to get you know, the maximum depth of field from virtually the camera to infinity. But as I say, you can do that, and you can get fall on the front standard, and you do that by dropping the bed. You'd also drop the bed if you're using wide angle lenses, because wide angle lenses, depending on its focal length, will probably capture the front bed. So you drop that out of the way, so it drops down so the wide angle lens won't see it, so to speak. But with this lens, now that I've dropped the bed, I can now, by doing that, I've effectively dropped the lens down. So I have got a certain amount of fall, not as much as the rise, but I've got a certain amount of fall. But more importantly, I've got control of this. I can now tilt the lens down, and that is something that you use quite a lot in landscape photography for controlling the depth of field. So that's those movements. The only other movement, I'll put the camera back up into its default position, press those two rails, is this. This is the only other movement you've got, is you have to slacken that, press that lever down, and you can move the lens, the front standard side, left to right. It gives you a little bit more aid in composition once you've got the camera set as on a tripod. You just want to move the image slightly. So that's the only movements that you've got on these types of cameras. And the other thing is, when you, because this camera as it's set up at the moment, it's taking pictures in landscape format. If you want to take a portrait shot, you have to turn the whole camera to get that portrait format, and because you do that, you lose some of the functionality of the movements on the lens. But it's just one of those things. It's one of these cameras, it wasn't designed like a field camera. It was designed primarily as a press camera. The press use these cameras a lot in the 40s, 50s, 60s. There was a chap called Ouija. He used one of these Graflex cameras. He had a flash gun attached to this bracket, big lens, flash bulb at the top, and he photographed a lot of scenes, crime scenes, etc., using one of these cameras. Google his name, you'll see some great pictures taken with these types of cameras. But because it doesn't have the functionality, this camera can do things that the field cameras can't do, and I'll show you that in a minute. If we look at the back of the camera, straighten that up. We have a focusing hood, so you'd open the lens up and you'd focus using these knobs either side there to move the bellows in and out to get your subject in focus. Now you can't always use these because depending on the light, if it's too bright you won't see the image, which will be upside down and reversed on the ground glass screen. It'll be difficult to see. So what I tend to do, this type of photography, most of what I do with these cameras, you can take this off. Just press that button, it just takes off, and I just use it using a focusing cloth and a loop, and I can get precise focus and working that way. The back on this camera is a standard graph lock back. It takes the standard Fidelity 4x5 film holders. Just pull it out and it pushes in. It takes different types of holders. You can also take the back completely off by just pressing those two little latches and it lifts off. Now you can use a roll film back, Polaroid back, so quite versatile. The other thing with these cameras, once we've got that in, the press used to use what's called I think it was Graphmatic film holders, and there were film holders that were thicker than these, and they held I think 5 sheets of film. And what you would do when you're taking one picture, you would pull the dark slide out, then push it back in, and it would drop a fresh sheet of 4x5 film into the film plane, and you keep doing that, and you had 5 shots, so you could use it quite quickly. This is just a standard Fidelity holder. I've just got two. There's only 2 sheets of film can be used in those, but the press would have probably used those automatic backs. Now these cameras, although they look quite awkward and bulky, can be used quite quickly because they've different focusing and viewing systems. Now one of the viewing systems is this here for composition. This has the correct mask for this lens. You change them for whatever type of lens you're using. So you look through that and you can get your composition. And it also adjusts for parallax error inside there. That means that what that sees is different to that. So when you get close, you're getting a different view to what the taking lens is. So it compensates for that. You've got the wireframe that lifts up, and you use that in conjunction with the viewfinder at the back here. It pops up, and on this it's got markings for different distances, and that again is to compensate for parallax error. And you'd simply look through that and fill that viewfinder up with that wireframe, and that would be your composition. This camera also has I don't know if you'll see this in this video where we are, but if I press this button at the side, there's a red button at the side there, just there. If I press that, the lights come on, and those lights are actually focused on the filament of the bulb inside. So when you're focusing with the camera in low light, when you press that down, you focus like a normal rangefinder, but you're seeing the filament of the bulb, and when they both come together, you know that you're in a focus. So that's a really clever feature, really. So that's the red button that operates that. So as a press photographer, how we would use this camera I'll just take it off the tripod. Keep in mind I probably have one of these backs on that takes sheets of film. We would have the exposure set. The shutter button on this camera is there, although you can use a cable release if you want to do, but for handheld use it's probably better using that shutter button. What they would do is the wireframe up like that with a viewfinder focus, sorry, through the rangefinder focus, and when it was in focus, use that or that for composition, and then press the shutter button, take the picture, pull the dark slide out, push it back in, and carry on like that. So in theory and in practice they were, once you got used to them, very quick cameras to use, although they look so bulky and awkward, but they were quite quick to use. They're a very well made camera. They were designed to take some punishment, and you can see some of these in real awful condition, but they still work. So that's the different ways that you can use the camera using the which way am I here now? Getting mixed up. There we go. Using the camera in different ways. For what I'm going to use, I'll probably use it. I'll just zoom a little bit more. I'll probably use this camera more as a for the type of photography I do, as a field camera. Trying to get it level. There we go. Although I haven't got the movements, what I do like about it is that when I'm going out, sometimes you miss shots with the other cameras because you've got to set them up, you've got to set the front standard up, etc. With these cameras, it's just a matter of pressing that button, dropping the bed, pulling the lens, the front standard out, and then using these different focusing methods and composition methods and take your picture, and you can do it a lot quicker. So all in all, a really versatile camera. So that's it. That's about it with the camera. What I did do, I went out with this camera, and I'm going to show you now, to a local church, just to take a few shots inside the church, just to see how I got on with this camera. So we'll take a look at that now. So I've reached the destination. You might recognise it from some of the other videos that I've done for my YouTube channel, and it's St Mary's Church at Stainburn. It's about 4-5 miles from where I live in Otley, somewhere down there, and I'm going to take interior shots, no exterior shots. I've done enough around here using the Crown Graphic. Now the problem is, when I got the film holders out, I got my film, and I only had 3 sheets of HB5 left, so I've got to buy some more large format 4x5 sheets of film. But it's enough for me just to try the camera out, and hopefully you know, I'm going to get some images that are different from what I've taken before. So I've only got 3 sheets of film, so I have to be careful what I'm going to photograph. So this is the entrance to the old church. Beautiful old church, that beautiful stained window there. Absolutely beautiful. I've been here before with my pinhole camera, another large format camera, that was a field camera. I've come to test out the Crown Graphic and see how I get on with that. As I say, I've only got 3 sheets of film in the film holder, so Just have a look around, see what picture I'm going to take. I quite like the light that's falling on that. That's the old font. That would be one, I think. These arrangement of flowers. That's probably another, but in vertical format. And quite like that. If I sort of compose it that way, it's very minimalistic. We've got this nice texture in the walls, and then this sign saying to Welcome to St Mary's. That could make a nice print. So that's probably the 3 pictures that I'm going to take. So I get the camera set up now, and I'll show you that, and how I'm going to meter, etc., and get these pictures taken. Right, got the camera all set up. I've got it focused on this first picture, which is the font. I'm not getting the whole font in itself, just the top of it and a little bit of detail here. The main thing is I want to get shadow detail in these areas, so I'm going to meter on that with the spot meter, which I've already done, and place that onto zone 3, so I'll get a darkish area but with some detail. I'm not going to measure the rest of the scene because it's within the dynamic range. I can tell just by looking at it, and those tones will fall where they're going to fall. That's the important area I want, is a shadow area. Now I've taken a light reading with my spot meter, and it's 1 second at f22, and I've got that set up on the camera. 1 second at f22, so I've got plenty of depth of field. So all remains now to take the picture. Take the dark slide out, cock the shutter, and then put this back in, black facing out. So that's the first picture. Find out how to get that in. There we go. I will move on to this picture of these flowers here. I'm going to take it something like that. That's what I'll just turn the GoPro, something similar to that. And hopefully it'll make a nice, interesting picture with this lighter background. So I'll get the camera set up for that. The only thing with this camera, because it's not like my Chamonix where when the camera's set up like this, if I want to shoot vertically or horizontally, all I do is take the camera back off and just virtually rotate it. With these, you can't, so I have to turn the whole camera, and that's what I'm going to do for this, and make sure that it's all level, etc. So as I say, you can't rotate the backs on these, you have to turn the camera. So we'll get that set up now. Right, I've got the camera set up now. As I said, that you can't revolve the back on these cameras, so if you want to do a vertical shot, you have to turn the whole of the camera. It's not a problem if you've got a sturdy tripod. I've levelled it with a little spirit level that I've got, so it's all level. Now I've taken the light reading, and it's the same for this picture as it was for the font. So I'll put the dark slide in. Do it one-handed, there we go. Cock the shutter. Pull the dark slide out. Take the picture. So that's the second picture. Got one shot left, and I am going to do that of the sign there saying welcome to St Mary's. I just think if I compose it something similar to this, that might make an interesting subject. So we'll see. So I'll get the camera set up. Right, got the camera set up. As you can see, I've got a little bit of rise. You might not be able to see, but you can see the bellows going up. Bit of vertical rise on the front standard just to help with the composition. Now for this picture, I'm going to use an orange filter, and you might ask why use an orange filter when you're inside. Well, I'm hoping it's going to add a little bit more contrast, and I'm thinking it might bring a little bit more texture out of the wood. Now the only problem using an orange filter like this, it's going to take 2 stops of light, but it doesn't matter because I'm actually on a tripod. So the exposure is going to be, I've measured it already, 8 seconds at f22. You have to be really careful when you're using large format cameras that you follow a certain pattern each time. Just making sure that the shutters are closed. Cock the shutter, make sure I'm on B. I'm at f22. Dark side out. And it's going to be an 8-second exposure. Right, here we go. 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008. And that's that. Final shot. Put the dark slide back in. Oops. I'm going to have to learn to bring another tripod with me, so I'm not working one-handed all the time. Yeah, so that's the final shot, and we'll see how those go. So that's it enough really in here. As I say, I've taken many pictures before in this beautiful old church, and there's one I actually took which I really liked, and it's this one here, and it's one I took with my 0-2000 pinhole camera. So I'll get packed up, I get off back home and get the film developed. As I say, it's Ilford HP5. I rated it at 400 ISO, and I'm going to develop it in Pyrocat HD. That's a 2-part developer, so I'm going to put 2 parts of part A and 2 parts of part B into 500 mils of water and do what's called a semi-stand development for 45 minutes, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's going to turn out. Right, I'm all packed up, got the camera on my back, and I was just looking at this guest book. There's been quite a few visitors today, me being one of them. It's a wonderful old church, this. I don't think it's used on a daily basis, only on special occasions, maybe at Christmas and Easter, but it's not what you might call a regular used church that gives services every Sunday. It's looked after by the church's Conservation Trust. It's a good job we've got these trusts that keep these places going. It's just wonderful to go back in history, to see our history, what buildings and life might have been like. Your imagination gets going, what it might have been like those days. I would imagine it'd been absolutely freezing up here if you came to worship. But because of these trusts, etc., it keeps these old places going. Now, just timed it right. The light's going and it's starting to rain, so I'll just be able to get in the car before I get wet through. And I'll say I get home and get these developed, and I've only got 3 pictures, but I really wanted to try this Crown graphic camera out, and I'm really pleased. Really easy to use. The lens gives I don't know if it's a lens or the ground glass, gives a lovely bright view for focusing and making, doing your composition, etc. In fact, I found it quite a bit brighter than the Chamonix screen on the other 4x5 field camera I have. So quite pleased with that. Right, gate open, close the gate, keep the older sheep out. This is a really beautiful place to visit, even if you're not coming to take photographs of it. It's just the way where it's situated. There's really no background noise of traffic or aeroplanes flying above. The roads are so quiet here that there's hardly any cars go by, and all you can hear is really the birds, the wind blowing. It's absolutely beautiful. It has a really nice calming effect on me, and I love coming here. I've come here over the years with every sort of camera you could mention, large format, medium format, 35mm pinhole cameras, and I've really enjoyed every visit, every time I come. And it's a place, it's like a magnet. I want to come again because of how it makes me feel. So a really, really wonderful place to visit. So I better get in the car now. It's going to sile it down, as we say in Yorkshire. I don't want to get wet, and get home and get these negatives developed. Right, I hope you enjoyed the video I did in St Mary's Church at Stainburn, and as you can hear, maybe it's absolutely pouring down, so I just got home in time. Now, I really enjoyed using this camera at the church. It's a great camera to use. I just wish I'd had more sheets of film so I could show you more pictures of what this camera is capable of producing, but I think you'll get the idea from the next one. I'm going to show you the pictures that I took with this camera. They're a camera that can be a little bit more awkward than a field camera on a tripod, because when you want to use this camera, as I said before, in portrait format, you have to turn the whole camera. But on a tripod you're usually not in a rush, so that is not that much of an issue. But the big advantage with these cameras is that you can hold them handheld, and if you get the correct speed film in the camera, so you're not going to get too slow shutter speeds, get this lens well stopped down, they open up a whole new world and opportunities, you know, such as street photography, and such as I've been out many times with my Chamonix 4x5 field camera, and I've seen this light coming over the you know, the valleys, etc. And by the time I've got the camera set up, it's so frustrating. And so by the time I've got it set up, the light's gone. But with this camera, you're not going to miss that. Even if you put it on a tripod, it's going to be a lot quicker, because you just press that button, drop the bed, pull it out, use the rangefinder, view up there without using a dark cloth, and you've got your picture. So they do have a massive advantage, so they're great for that. The cameras are very well built. The design of them hasn't changed over the years that much, really. The rangefinder has changed. This is a Graflex rangefinder, but they used to have one at the side. I think that I forgot what that was at Claret, view rangefinder at the side. This being the later model, I think it's a pacemaker model, I call it, as the Graflex rangefinder there. But other than that, the actual overall design hasn't changed that much. And these cameras, you can see them in such bad condition, but they still work because they were made to be workhorses for the press. This camera, as you can see here, when I look through the ground glass, you get a really lovely bright view. So they are quite easy to use, even with this up, and as long as you've got not too much light in there, you could focus on that by eye, and then you'd have to then put your dark slide in, and then focus on the ground glass, put the dark slide in and take the picture. You could do it that way, because as you can see here, it's a very, very bright look on that ground glass screen. They did another model of this called the Speed Graphic, and that had dials here, clockwork dials, that fired a focal plane shutter at the back. Now the advantage with that camera was you could shoot at 1,000th of a second, and you could use lenses that didn't have shutters in. So you could use all sorts of different types of lenses that with this camera you can't do, because I've no control of the shutter speed. But the Speed Graphic went out a little bit out of favour with press photographers, because they were more complex to use and they're quite a bit heavier. So they stayed in production until about 1965, whereas these cameras stayed in production up to 1973. Now the graphics started life around about 1902. A company called Fulmer and Swing, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and then a few years later they became a division of Kodak in Rochester for quite a number of years, and then time went on. I think it changed one more time, and eventually they were bought up by Singer of Singer sewing machines, and that's why that's on that box. I've done a little bit of research on that, and as I say, they carried the production of the Speed Graphic to 1965, and this one a little longer to 1973. So for anybody who's wanting to get in 4x5 photography, I would highly recommend trying one of these. Try and get one in reasonable condition. You don't have to pay the earth. You can pick these up just under £200 with a lens, and you'll be able to take 4x5 inch negatives. And sometimes the condition of them can be really bad, but they do work as long as the ground glass is okay and the lens works. You will get those pictures, so they are well worth trying. And if you get a decent one, you'll be able to do a 4x5 inch handheld of photography. So they are a camera that I don't think you can call them a collector's camera as such, because there were so many made in the USA, but they are an iconic camera, and they've made their history in the photographic world, and they're just as I say, an iconic camera. So would I recommend one? I definitely would. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, a like, better still, subscribe to my channel, and as I always say, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video. The Crown Graphic 4x5 press camera. Right, I'll leave you with the pictures that I took in St Mary's Church.